Welcome to another episode of Neowolf News. I'm your host, Neowolf. What are sacred sites? All religions have them. Even Native Americans who didn't build cathedrals considered geological landmarks to be sacred. These are places of pilgrimage, places that people go to pay homage and to pray for their ancestors or to God. These are places that we leave offerings of our abundance, and they're places that should be treated with honor and respect. In this episode, I'm going to explore sacred sites, vortexes, and ley lines, and I'm going to share with you a story of an experience that I had where I discovered my first ley line at a state park back in Minnesota. So stay tuned, and I'll get right into the story. This story takes us back to 2011. I was living in Minnesota and focused on spending as much time outdoors as I could. I was going around camping at various state parks in Minnesota and Wisconsin, as well as other points of interest. And I would get to these spots and I would set up my camp, and then I would go out for long hikes. And during these hikes, I was finding that I would be impressed by thoughts or feelings or different ideas that I had never had before. And I would wonder, where did the feeling come from? And after enough of this, it started to impress me that it was the ancestors of the land, or potentially ancestors within the trees themselves, but spirits that are attached to the land that are still impressing us. I would take these trips and visit these places all by myself. It was a challenge braving the deep, dark forests at night, but I found this to be really introspective. After a long winter, it was finally spring, and I was ready to get out and explore. I was reflecting on a story that my friend Bud had told me the previous year when I visited Pipestone, and I went to the keeper's gift shop and I met Bud, and he told me a story about how he was invited to give an interpretation of this ancient rock alignment that's at a state park a little ways south from Pipestone. The way that he described it to me is that he went out to the site and he loaded his pipe and he made an offering to the ancestors and sat quietly and listened for any subtle impressions that he might get. The impression that he got was that this was a gathering place. The rock alignment was located near a major crossroads in Native American trails, and with close access to the quarry up in Pipestone where they gather their sacred stone for their pipes. So the rocks mark the place, but they also have a way of marking the time, because they line up exactly with the sun path on the equinox. I meditated on this story on and off throughout the winter, and I was impressed that there was another piece to this puzzle. I had a feeling that these rocks were laid on a ley line. And by ley line, I mean a magnetic line that's connecting vortexes that makes a grid across the whole planet. And so the only way that I could think to test this theory was to form some dowsing rods. So I took some metal hangers and some side cutters, and I cut them so that I could bend them into L shapes, and that I could hold them loosely and use them as dowsing rods to go and test the theory. So when I got to the site, I took my dowsing rods, and I started to walk up the path towards the rock alignment. And as I was approaching the alignment, I could see that the rods straightened out and they were attracted to the magnetism. And as I got over the alignment, they both pointed outward, which shows that I found a ley line and that there was magnetism attracting in both directions. I remember that day my experience got cut a little bit short because a severe thunderstorm came in. But I was thrilled that I had actually confirmed my suspicion that that was a ley line. I definitely don't consider myself an expert on vortexes and ley lines. And if you have any information or have any good maps to share, please feel free to leave a comment below. If you like this kind of content, feel free to follow me on social media. I'm at Neowolf News on Bighteon, BitChute, Rumble, as well as Gab, Twitter, and Facebook. Thanks for tuning in for another episode, and we'll see you soon.